The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Shout out to the Coffee Club. How's everybody doing out there this morning? Hope you guys are all right. It's another late one over here, starting recording a little after 1 a.m. It's all right. Just wasn't able to get into a rhythm with show prep. That happens sometimes when you have a 4-month-old, but he wasn't even the issue today. Gosh, man, it's like every time I would sit down and get started, start getting my notes together and everything, another football player would pop in the portal over and over. I'm like, dang, man. I'm happy for my boys over there. Silverfield's doing a good job. He's starting to put something together, but they're messing with my hoops vibes tonight, man. Come on. We got content to produce over here. We're in the middle of a season. What are you doing? Have some respect. No, for real, though, I think the football program is going to be all right. But I will tell you this. It kind of made this week fly by, though. Has it gone quick for y'all? Shoot, tomorrow the Razorbacks play basketball again. And I am excited about that. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to put a bow on Ole Miss today. We're going to turn the page to Auburn today. We've got some sound for you from Chris Beard, who just coached against Arkansas, as well as Stephen Pearl, who's getting ready to coach against Arkansas. I think it's interesting to hear what opposing coaches have to say about what the Razorbacks have going on. So I want to share that stuff with you. We're going to get into our matchup breakdowns, our position battles for this Auburn game on Saturday. Have some other odds and ends to get along, get into along the way as well. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. I'll tell you what I could use right now. It's 1 o'clock in the morning as I record. I'd love me some Blue Ember right now. I really would. Blue Ember Smokehouse. It's a family-owned smokehouse specializing in handcrafted barbecue. From tender brisket to home-cooked sides, you'll find a hearty meal for every member of your family. They do it right over there. They operate the Blue Ember way. That means they buy only the highest quality meals, and they apply their signature blend of spices and slowly smoke in their wood-only pits. They allow those meats to rest and ensure optimal tenderness and cut right in front of the customer to provide transparency and satisfaction every bite. That's what I appreciate about them. You walk in there, you order it, they pull it right out in front of you, slice it in front of you. You know that it's fresh. They also cater any events that you might have, weddings, parties, business meetings, and gatherings where, I don't know, any group of people might need to be fed some amazing barbecue. Blue Ember has you covered. Give them a call at any of their 6 locations in the state of Arkansas: Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Texarkana, Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Rogers. Or you can check out their website, www.blueembersmokehouse.com. Thank you for supporting your local Blue Ember Smokehouse. All righty. So, it's kind of weird. Sometimes you see the University of Arkansas account, the Twitter account, put out, stats and, things here and there. Sometimes it comes from Hog Stats, whoever, and you celebrate it. You're like, oh, wow, man, that's a neat stat. And the U of A put out one today that I almost didn't even retweet, but then I did, and I quote tweeted it. But this is the first 2-0 start in SEC play in more than a decade for Razorback basketball. I got to be honest with you folks, that doesn't even, it's like it almost doesn't register with me. What? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Since 2014-15, they haven't started 2-0 in the league? What? In that time, Arkansas has made 7 NCAA tournaments, 4 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8s. They've won a dozen NCAA tournament games, but they haven't won their first 2 games in conference play. That's wild to me. It's crazy, man. And it goes to show you, I guess, just how hard it is to win in this conference. So, hey, for Arkansas to do it, to start this season with, and the way that they've done it too, a win over a top 20 Tennessee team by double digits and then going on the road and get one, that's really good stuff. Crazy stat, though. And if the Hogs get past Auburn, it would be the first 3-0 start. At least this is what somebody on Twitter told me, so I'm going to assume it is true, since 1998. You got to be kidding me, man. That's insane. At any rate. And, first time since. There are 2 ways those first time since type of stats can go, right? Remember last January? First time since Arkansas joined the SEC. They started 0-5. We prefer this, okay? We definitely prefer this. At any rate, let's move on. You guys know that I really do. I like to hear what opposing coaches say about Arkansas leading up to and after a game. It's, because they're so deeply involved in the scout. All these coaches know each other. People in the league talk to each other. And obviously these guys know ball. That's how they're in the position that they've gotten to. So I appreciate to hear from them. And some it's just coach speak. Some are more candid than others. But I thought we had 2 instances here in the last 24 hours where you've gotten some pretty good content, some good sound bites from one coach who just played Arkansas, one that's getting ready to. Chris Beard, after the game at Ole Miss on Wednesday, he was basically just asked about defending Arkansas's offense. And he wound up going into a full-on monologue about Coach Cal and Darius Acuff and Trevin Brazile. So let me pull this up here and play it for you guys. I thought it was some really good stuff from Chris Beard.
Take on Arkansas and Coach Cal. Hopefully nobody sound bites it, but it starts with really good coaching.
That man said, hopefully nobody sound bites it. Ha. That's exactly what we're doing, Chris Beard. We're sound biting it. But I don't know why you would not want somebody to sound bite this. You're just showing respect for one of your peers and giving an honest opinion. This I appreciate.
But when you have the best players and you have all these pros, it's easy for people that don't understand the game to be like, well, he just has the best players. But he can coach, man. I mean, he's UMass, Memphis, help me out here, Kentucky, NBA stint, and now at Arkansas. Like, the common ingredient, yes, is the NBA talent, but it's also him. I think he puts his players in good positions. He develops teams. I thought last year's Arkansas coaching job was like National Coach of the Year worthy. You start 0-5 in the league, and then at the end of the year, you're one of the best teams in the country. So I think he's a really good coach. And
this is the reason why I played that clip, by the way, because I agree. And we talked about this so much. How many times did we have this show in the summer where we were like, there sure are a lot of people talking about Arkansas struggles from early in the season and acting like, well, they just, caught a good matchup or, got hot at the right time or whatever. And not enough people were talking about the coaching job that John Calipari did last year to turn this thing around and get Arkansas to where they were. And here's the thing, because Beard is right. A lot of people chalk it up with Cal to, well, he just has the best players. Well, first of all, you got to be able to go out there and recruit them and get them. And not a lot of coaches can do that. John Calipari can. That's part of coaching, is getting the best players. Last year at Arkansas, he didn't have the best players. He didn't. This was not a typical John Calipari roster in terms of talent. And then the talented guys that he did have were hurt the entire season. And him and that staff coached their asses off to get this team to turn it around from the worst start to league play in conference history, in program history, to getting into the NCAA tournament, winning a couple games, making a second weekend. He did a heck of a job, and I think it speaks a lot of volumes for somebody in the league who beat them twice last year, by the way, to say what he did. So I really appreciate that from Beard, but let's carry on.
I'm not trying to get an invite to his fantasy camp. I'm not trying to get a job.
Dude, if Chris Beard came to that fantasy camp, John Neighbors would be giving him buckets. I'll tell you that right now. I'm
just stating he can coach. But a lot of times people are going to not maybe bring that up first because the players are so good. He's got really good players. This will be the last time his point guard ever plays in Oxford. He's got a poise about him and a demeanor. I watched him play on the circuit, and he was a young talent. Now he's like a stone-faced pro. His poise and his...
Ooh, y'all like that? Stone-faced pro. That's a good way to describe Acuff. He is he's never rattled. He's unfazed by everything in there. I'm going to start using that, stone-faced pro.
His demand of the game is very, very impressive to me in film preparation and in practice. Tonight he gets damn near 30 points, 9 assists. He just controls the game. And then when we made our comeback late, where we really had a chance there, if Patton hits that three, that would have been fun. Who takes the game over? It's just him. And he gets downhill. He plays off of 2 feet. Brazile was the difference in the game tonight. I think he hit 4 threes. We certainly know he can shoot. It wasn't a disrespectful game plan. It was just a game plan that we can't stop everything. And
I was wondering about this during the game because especially that run in the second half where he hit the back-to-backs, he was unguarded. And they seemed pretty content on just completely helping off of him to disrupt some things at the rim. And Acuff was able to kick out for, wide open threes. And there you have it from Chris Beard. He's like, hey, no disrespect. We know the dude can shoot. We can't take away everything. We got to pick our poison. We'd rather have the 7-footer shooting corner threes out there than somebody scoring at the rim. And TB burned him. He made him pay.
Made us pay. If he goes 1 for 5 tonight, maybe I'm excited at the Waffle House here in a minute instead of sitting over there, thinking, woe is me. And then, they just get key contributions from other players as well. But tonight I thought the difference in the game was the pro point guard. And then Brazil had a great night shooting. And I didn't think, from my perspective, anybody had a D or an F game for Arkansas.
Okay, well, I'm glad that Chris Beard said that he didn't feel like from his perspective that anybody had a D or an F game from Arkansas. Since we do the report cards and the player grades after every game, I like to hear from the SEC coaches. Just played them. No Ds or Fs for the Arkansas players. I didn't give the Arkansas players any Ds or Fs. I think a C was as low as I went last night. So for anybody that was yelling at me, what do you mean? Pringle can't catch a pass. You got to give him an F. Well, you're not on the right side of history with at least me and Chris Beard. Although I don't know if I want to be on the same side of history as Chris Beard now that I think about it. Yeah, anyway, moving on. We also heard from Auburn's Stephen Pearl to preview this game. Sort of preview this game coming up on Saturday. It seemed pretty clear to me. I don't know if you guys get the chance, go check out his press conference if you want, but it seems like they're still kind of going through it from that whole situation that took place for them Tuesday night. You guys remember it. They thought they beat Texas A&M on a buzzer beater, and then it was overturned. And that was just one of many twists and turns from that game, but certainly the most memorable one. And it was nuts, and they've appealed to the SEC, whatever, and it didn't work out for them. What the hell are they going to do? After overturning the call, then 2 days later, they're going to overturn it again. That wasn't going to happen. So I don't know what they expected, but at any rate, Stephen Pearl said that they're, moving on from that to Arkansas, and that's all great. But his body language just looked like a guy he's down bad. He looked a little bit defeated there. Regardless, he was asked several things. I'm only going to play one response of his on the Hogs, but asked about the challenges of facing this Razorback team, and he spoke about how much they struggled to contain Texas A&M in transition. And then he, rightfully pointed out that Arkansas is one of the top 2-3 teams in the country in that area. So that's something they have to shore up. He talked about how good Arkansas is at, making plays off the bounce and, highly complimentary. And the point that he was trying to make, and I think the message he was trying to send to his players is, listen, do we feel like we got robbed? Do we feel like we were wrong? Maybe so, and maybe there's something to that, but you got a really good Arkansas team coming in here, and you got to lick your wounds and get back to business. Like there's no pouting about it, or you'll get your butts kicked, and they will. Like there's if you kind of look at this game, there are a lot of boxes that can be checked that favor Auburn, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit, and certainly tomorrow, but Arkansas is really, really good. And I think it's an adjustment some Razorback fans have to make. Because even like going into the Ole Miss game, a lot of people are like, I don't know, man. It's weird in Oxford. And I don't know, Arkansas doesn't seem to play well on the road. This team's a little bit different. And I think people are starting to come around to them being the real deal a little bit, which is fun. But at any rate, one of the things that I loved about Eric Musselman was he would always do the pregame Zooms, which I appreciated. And you would just have to ask him one general question about a team that Arkansas is getting ready to play, and he would give you the full roster rundown. Like if Arkansas was getting ready to play this game against Auburn, and I got the first question from us, I could say, Coach, what are your impressions on Auburn and the challenges they pose? And he would go through the entire scouting report and the entire roster. Or I could be very specific, and I could say, Coach Keyshawn Hall is a bucket. How do you contain a player like that? And he would give me the rundown on the entire roster. Like, he was just good for it. And Stephen Pearl had one of those moments when he was talking about Arkansas today. So I'm going to play this clip for you and have a listen, and let me know what you think about Stephen Pearl's thoughts on the Razorbacks.
Acuff can get downhill and get his own. Malik Thomas is such a prolific shot maker and shot taker. He's I'm gonna tell the guys he's gonna make some shots, and you're like, what the hell happened? Like, he's such a special and unique shot maker.
This is my favorite part of the whole thing. I hadn't really considered that. Like, what must it be like with the way that Leak plays, some of the shots he takes, the way he goes about his business, the tough shots that he makes in there? That's got to be maddening as a coach. And if you're showing film, there's some truth to that, because there are times, because he's got that mantra of tough shot taker and tough shot maker, where you might be playing good defense, it might be a horrific shot, he knocks it down, that can be really deflating. And so he's kind of right from the standpoint of, this is going to make you mad and it's going to frustrate you. You can't let it, and you can't let it become a domino thing. And he might come down there and do it again, but that's just part of the way that he plays. I like that he gave our man Leak a little love there right off the top.
So he's going to make some, and you just can't, you got to get on to the next play. Brazil has just completely, evolved his game, and, he's a pick and pop 4 or 5 man now and shoots it at a really good percentage. Billy Richmond is a guy that can really get downhill and finish around the rim. And, he's 4 for 8 in his last 5 games from 3.
That's Billy Goat to you, by the way, sir. Get it right.
Karter Knox is a guy that's tremendously improved his 3-point shooting. So they have a bunch of guys that have returned from a year ago that have all gotten better, and then they got some really special freshmen that just do so many good things. So they're not one-dimensional. They got guys that can shoot it. They got guys that can drive it. And while they don't analytically jump off the page from an offensive rebounding standpoint, they're a great offensive rebounding team. And the reason why analytically it doesn't look that way is because they're so damn efficient offensively. So they make a lot of shots, right? But when they miss.
Thank you. Because there's a lot of truth to that. If you look at the raw numbers for Arkansas on offensive rebounding, because I look at the stats for every game, right? And the cumulative box score, the season box score, I was just doing it for Auburn. And I was like, damn, man, it seems like these dudes get a lot of offensive rebounds. And they do, but even relative to Arkansas. But the offensive rebound percentages are a lot closer. The truth is, Arkansas shoots it so well that they don't. You have to miss shots to be able to get an offensive rebound, and that impacts the final numbers there. So I'm glad he pointed that out for all of us non-ball knowers out there.
Miss shots, they do a great job of going and getting it. So they're a handful, and that's part of one of the reasons they're right now one of the favorites to win this league. So Cal's done a good job, great job with that staff with this group, and it's going to be an unbelievable opportunity for us to go against.
Like that. It does it kind of feel good to hear another coach in your league just talk about how unbelievable of an opportunity it is for his team to play your team. That's a sign of respect right there. Arkansas is doing good things. We'll see what it looks like on Saturday. Hey, today's episode is presented by our partners over at OZK Insurance. You guys know the drill by now. What makes them unique is that they're independent. They're not tied down. Not tied down at all to one company. They shop a multitude of A-rated carriers, and they find the best coverage and price for you. And now they've paired that with something that you definitely don't see from an independent agency. It's one of those full-service mobile apps. Everything's on your phone nowadays. Well, so is OZK Insurance. At this point, you can see all your policies right there under one roof. Home, auto, whatever it is you have. You can pay your bills. You can get roadside assistance, file claims, change your policies, get new quotes, whatever you might want to do. You can do it all right there from your phone. So you get the best part of an independent agent, which is choice, flexibility, dealing with real people. And then you also get the convenience of modern technology. So if you're tired of being stuck with one carrier or chasing down paperwork, go to ozkinsurance.com or just search OZK Insurance in the App Store or Google Play. It's a local agency with national level options, one powerful app. That's OZK Insurance. Let's get into our position battles here. And before we start, there's really no question. Arkansas is the better team. in this matchup with Auburn. But with that being said, in fairness, for the matter of objectivity here, Auburn has a very, very talented roster. And I need everybody to understand that. Like, they're 9-6 on the season, and they just lost to Texas A&M. I get it. I understand. But they've got some hoopers. Like, their roster talent, in my opinion, is comparative to the very top of the league. Not as deep as Alabama, but they got some dudes who are as talented as Alabama's best. Same situation as Arkansas up there with the teams that are the most talented in the league. You're going to see that reflected in these matchups. Okay, I understand. Arkansas is a top 15 team here. They're having the better season. But if you go position by position and look at some of their players, you'll see they've got some dudes that can go get it. This is a team sport, though, right? And that's where the difference is right now between these two groups. You got one that's a little bit more connected, a little bit more bought in, guys who have settled into their roles, doing it on both ends of the floor, and playing better together. Whereas Auburn has maybe a couple guys that are very, very individually talented. So this is going to be one of the more difficult challenges that Arkansas has faced this season. It is. It's a quad one, game on the road, tough place to play. I'm not really crazy about how this looks for Arkansas defensively. I'm not. I'm on the flip side. I know that Auburn is not crazy about how this looks for them offensively. So, or defensively. So this could legitimately be a game where you could set the over under at 99 or 199.5. And I'd be like, I'd be pretty tempted at the over there. But at the end of the day, I felt like Arkansas played probably a B-ish game by their standards on Wednesday, and they got a road win at Ole Miss. It's going to take an A-caliber game to get it done on Saturday. So let's jump into this. Let me pull up our graphic here, and we'll talk our way through it. The point guard position, you've got Darius Acuff versus Tahad Pettiford. And advantage Acuff, okay? Like, no knock on Pettiford, but he's super talented. Darius Acuff's the best player in the conference. He just is. There are a lot of subplots to this matchup that are worth keeping an eye on. First of all, I cheated my own system here. Pettiford hasn't been starting for Auburn the last couple games. They've been starting Caden Magwood, the freshman, instead. But Tahad's still playing 30-plus minutes per game. So I'm putting him here. I'm just going to put him in here. At some point, they're going to put him back in the lineup. This is a disciplinary thing, by the way. Stephen Pearl said he's not holding up to the Auburn standard or whatever off the floor. And I don't know what that means. I know this is a kid who got a DUI or whatever in the offseason. And now this is a thing. I don't know if he's a knucklehead or not. I've never met him, never talked to him. Don't know anybody that knows him. He seems to still be figuring some things out. But he's an NBA talent. And he would have been drafted for sure had he stayed in. Last year, he tested the waters also, probably like early second round or whatever. But he's averaging 15 a game, hasn't been very efficient. He's just shooting at 38% from the field and 30% from three. A lot of volume there. He's taken as many attempts as Malik Thomas has. But the strangest thing about Tahad Pettiford, this is really weird to me. He stinks at home. And I mean that. He's bad at basketball when he plays at home, and he's very, very good on the road. In 8 games away from home, so whether it's true road or neutral, Tahad Pettiford's averaging 20.3 points per game. He's shooting over 40% on 25 made threes. That's really good. In 7 games at Neville Arena, he's averaging 8.7 points, and he's shooting at 14% from three. He's only made 6 threes in his own building. That's ridiculous. Splits like that get you benched in baseball if you're facing a lefty. All right. That is nuts to me. Nuts to me. Pettiford had 4 points and 4 assists in that game against Arkansas last year, if you remember that. He's point guard, but he's not really a true point guard. He's scoring minded. I think he's averaging south of 3 assists per game. And Auburn is not a high assist team, which goes back to what I was saying earlier before we pulled this graphic up. Arkansas is the better team. But Auburn's got some guys who can go get you a bucket. Like they've got some hoopers on that team. So And Pettiford certainly qualifies as one of those. On the flip side, like Acuff, he continues to be tremendous for Arkansas. 29 on Tennessee, 26-9 on Ole Miss. On one hand, if you're looking at this game and you're seeing an Auburn defense that ranks outside of the top 100 in efficiency, you would think Acuff is licking his chops. Like on the surface, this is a great matchup for him, and there's no reason to believe he wouldn't go out and have another big game for Arkansas. I am a little, I don't want to use the word concerned. I'm paying attention to the gas tank heading into this one. Make no mistake, Darius Acuff is a competitor. He's a dog. He's a grown man. And these guys are resilient too, by the way. Like we think about quick turnarounds and whatever and recovery. These guys play 8 to 10 games a weekend against 4 and 5 stars on the EYBL. And, they're eating Papa John's and 6 guys to one hotel room. That way you can, afford to stay there and stuff like that. They're going to be okay. But nobody's immune to the wear and tear of the game here. And Acuff was kind of gimping around by the end of that Ole Miss game, like a sore hamstring. It looked like he tweaked an ankle or something at the end. I am not concerned about him not playing or anything like that. And I know nobody's 100% once you get to this stage of the year. I just, I wonder if he'll be impacted at all with a short turnaround here. That's all. Just something to keep an eye on, and we'll have a pretty good idea about that early on. Where it would show up is, if I look at this matchup, what would worry me is Arkansas has had a hard time with shifty and quick guards of keeping them out of the paint, keeping them in front and keeping them out of the lane. And Pettiford's a guy who can beat you off the bounce and get in there. So Arkansas is going to have to do a really good job on ball and, pick and roll coverage and everything like that against Pettiford. He is not a dude that you can let live in the lane. You need him to continue to stink at home against you if you're Arkansas. At the 2, you got DJ Wagner and Kevin Overton from Auburn. I've got to give Auburn the nod here. The truth is Overton's basically the player that Arkansas hoped DJ would be this season with the way that he's playing. And this is far from a mismatch. I think Overton has played better and been more consistent for Auburn so far this season. He's a good player. 6'5", 200 pounds. He's averaging 13 a game. And he's just kind of a level up across the board statistically. Averaging a few more points, a few more rebounds. He's shooting at 3 to 4% higher from the field. They're about the same percentage from 3, but Overton's made 10 more. He leads Auburn in steals. And he's red hot right now. And that's another thing that gives him the edge for me. Overton's averaging 20 a game in Auburn's last 4 outings. He had 29 on NC State, so he's kind of proven to be a guy who can have a big game for you. He's a good player. And he was at Texas Tech last season, and he had 12 and 7 against Arkansas in that Sweet 16 game. And, the flip side here with DJ, he's just got to be more productive and more consistent for this team. I love that he has embraced his role. I love that he plays his butt off every second that he's in a game. I love that he's a leader for this team. He's, an extension of the coaching staff on the floor. There's so many endearing qualities about DJ, and he deserves to be commended for those. But we can't ignore that he's now shooting under 40% from the field on the year. Or that, after shooting 40% from 3 in non-conference, he's 0 in league play again. That's something that happened to him last year. Or that in 15 games this season, DJ Wagner has not grabbed a single offensive rebound. Not one. Not one. He's averaging 1.3 rebounds per game. And so I see that, and then I see some of the inefficiency around the rim. And then I look at DJ, 6'4", 190, a strong physical downhill guard. That just doesn't add up to me. And I've been kind of thinking about, well, how does Arkansas take this thing to the next level as a team? And I've been going through every player. And with me for DJ, that's it, right? It's making some of your layups here. And I feel like he could be more impactful on the glass. And Arkansas has been rebounding better. Rebounded really well. Out-rebounded Tennessee, actually. They dominated Ole Miss, plus 10 on the boards there. That's great. So they're really starting to come around from that standpoint. But DJ could be more of a factor in there for sure. the Hogs are rolling. So like, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not advocating for a big lineup change or anything like that, but I'm just of the opinion, if you're going to be a starter on this caliber of team, I just think there has to be a higher level of consistency and production now that we're halfway through the year and in SEC play. So the roller coaster ride kind of has to stop and things need to start leveling out here. And hopefully that starts for DJ on Saturday. He did have 11 points and 5 assists in that building at Neville against a much better Auburn team last year. So we'll see what it looks like for DJ. At the 3, Karter Knox versus Sebastian William Adams for Auburn. I like Williams Adams a lot. He's a really fun freshman. Big wing. He's kind of a 3-4 type. You can play him at either spot. He's got some Chaney Johnson to him. He's got a little bit of Chris Moore to him. If you're thinking about recent Auburn players, the kid just gets after it. He's got a high motor. Not a whole bunch there offensively right now, although he shows some pop. Like he's going to continue to improve, and I think he's going to be a hell of a player down the road. Right now, he's a guy, he's kind of like Carter in the sense of being a car crash, like Cal likes to call him. Can draw a lot of fouls. The only problem is he's a 46% free throw shooter, so that's not helping him out too much, but he's an impactful player defensively. He's good. And here's the thing. Here's how you know that coaching staff really likes what they see from him. He went scoreless against Georgia in the SEC opener, but he played 42 minutes. I think that's telling about how they feel about him. Carter has the advantage in this matchup. I want to give Williams Adams some loves because I think he's going to be a really good player. Carter's got the advantage Saturday. He's been trending in the right direction for sure, right? I mean, 11-7 on Tennessee, 10-6 at Ole Miss. This kind of feels like a game to me that he could have an even bigger impact. I don't know why. When I think about this stuff, I close my eyes and I imagine the Razorbacks and the Tigers on the floor at Neville. And it's almost like, who do I see first? And it just kind of gives me a feel for who I think is going to play well. I did that the other day, and I was like, man, Billy at Ole Miss, like, it's just jumping out to me. Turned out he did pretty damn good there. For whatever reason, it's Carter for me in this game. And I think he's going to be very important. In fact, I know we're doing like the position by position type of matchups here. I think there's a chance that he actually starts defensively on Keyshawn Hall, who we're going to talk about in a minute. We'll see what Arkansas wants to do there. In fact, that might be the route I would take if Auburn keeps their same starting lineup. So keep that in mind. But, coming off of what I thought was a really strong defensive effort in Oxford on Malik Dia, Carter's going to be really important for Arkansas in this one. Carter had 11-4 at Auburn last year. So you think about experience, and a lot of times it's flipped. For example, Arkansas played at Tennessee last year. Tennessee comes to Fayetteville, this season, but you get Auburn twice this year. So you're going there back-to-back seasons, and then you automatically look at it and you go, okay, well, Arkansas's got 4 guys who, played in that arena. And so they understand the jungle, they understand the atmosphere and what you're getting yourself into. They've gotten shots up in there, and that's good. And something that, the freshmen can draw from those experiences from those guys. And I like that. So then at the 4, theoretically, Trevin versus Keyshawn Hall. And it doesn't matter if I switch this, by the way. I could have just said, well, maybe they would go Carter on Hall and, Trevin. That wouldn't change anything. Whoever Arkansas had matched up with Williams Adams, I would give them the advantage. Whoever is matched up against Keyshawn Hall, I give Hall the advantage. So that's where I'm at. Keyshawn Hall is arguably the best all-around scorer in the league, one of the better scorers in the country. He's a hell of a player. If it was me, I don't know, I'm torn. I would probably go Carter and put Trevin on Sebastian Williams Adams. The reason being, we all know how important it is for Trevin Brazile to be out there on the floor. He's got to be in the game. And there is no bigger foul merchant in the country than Keyshawn Hall. Not Cam Boozer, not JT Toppin. I'm telling you, prepare yourselves. Keyshawn Hall, he leads the country in free throw attempts per game. He draws 7-point whistles per 40 minutes. His free throw rate is ridiculous. It's crazy. He's taken 28 free throws in 2 SEC games so far. So don't get mad. Don't act baffled when it happens. You have been warned. And my hope is that he at least earns them. No and ones. Skip the cheapies where you're being a little bit aggressive. Billy and Karter are good for one of these a game where they're being a little bit overly aggressive and they've got a handout, and then you just get the little Kobe Bryant. I'm going to deke the jumper right into your hand and get a quick whistle there on a mid-range or whatever. You got to skip those. But it's telling you it's coming. My thought is you have more fouls to give between Karter and Billy than you do TB. And Murphy's a big kid, but if we saw both of those guys guard Malik Dia, he ain't as big as Malik Dia. He's a couple inches shorter, 25 or so pounds lighter. So I think it would work out there. At any rate, by the way, the top 4 scorers in the SEC, Josh Hubbard at Mississippi State, LeBaron Philon at Alabama, Keyshawn Hall at Auburn, and then Darius Acuff at Arkansas. Hall's just a matchup problem. Yeah, 6'7", 240. He can defend the 4, and they like to have him do that. So hence where he's at on the position chart here, but his nickname is literally big guard. Right? And the way that Auburn plays usually gives him a matchup advantage to attack. They use him as kind of a point forward. And so they'll let him initiate or create from the top of the key. They'll post him up. They'll ISO him in the short corner and the high post, and he'll face up and get to work. He's a great ISO scorer, lefty. He scored 20 or more in 10 of their 15 games. He's got 6 double-doubles. He's shooting at 42% from 3. He's taking 127 free throws. He's a handful. Now, he's also had several monster games this year, and Auburn is 9-6. And there's always been questions about how much, hell of a player, but how much does he contribute to winning basketball? He led the Big 12 in scoring last season, and he was on a bad UCF team. So, and this is also interesting. It's also the guy who tried to commit to Eric Musselman in Arkansas in the transfer portal before Muss bolted for USC, but they passed on him. And I was told there were some red flags that they found, and they didn't want to take him, which I found interesting given some of the guys that they took in the past, but whatever. And then Cal was after him this spring, if you recall. One of the 4 finalists there, and then he winds up going to Auburn. He's like the epitome of almost a hog. And, and then obviously Trevin here, he's just got to kind of exercise some demons at Neville Arena. Last year, if you want to, go back to that game, Trevin played 9 minutes, and the only basket he scored was for Auburn, literally. Remember that? That was rough. That was, in my opinion, and I understand the injuries and the stuff that he's dealt with. That felt like the low point of Trevin's career. When he scored for Auburn. Now, he didn't do it, it didn't happen on purpose, but he did it. And looked really rough out there, and they couldn't put him back in the game. And it was at that point I was like, wow, this might be it for TB. Well, then literally right after that, he broke out, and he hasn't looked back since. So coming off a huge game at Ole Miss, Trevin is, Auburn's one of those weird teams. They offensive rebound really, really well, but they stink on the defensive glass. So they'll sniff it out if they got an opportunity to put it back, but to close out a defensive possession, not so much. So I look at a guy like Trevin, I think to myself, man, this is a game where you would love to see him get double-digit rebounds. Get active. And we heard what Stephen Pearl said about Arkansas's offensive rebounding. Well, here's some food for thought. Trevin Brazile in his 9 starts at the end of last season, he had multiple offensive rebounds 7 times. And some crazy games on the offensive boards. He had 5 on Kansas in the tournament, 6 on Ole Miss in Nashville. He had 4 on Vanderbilt on the road. Just an animal. In 10 of his 14 games played this year, he's grabbed 1 or none on the offensive glass. And that's not a shot fired. Why do I bring this up? For the same reasons I was just talking about with DJ. Because if you're looking for ways that this team can improve, take it to another level. And, I'm thinking about Trevin and the difference in being boom or bust. How do you get him some more easy points? How do you get him some more easy baskets to get him going? I think this is the answer. Are you going to post him up and have him shooting jump hooks? No, you're not going to do that. But him crashing the offensive glass and getting putbacks and being more aggressive on that front, I think that might be the answer for him. He could really easily cause Auburn some problems on the glass. I think this lines up for another good game out of TB. So, again, you look at it and you're like, all right, well, giving the Auburn guy the advantage there, but you're saying TB is going to play well. Keyshawn Hall is one of the best players in the country, but it doesn't mean TB can't bust their ass, right? At the center spot, Nick Pringle versus Keyshawn Murphy. Interestingly enough, this could have been a Nick Pringle versus Malik Ewan matchup. If you travel back in time with me to portal season, I was in Bud Walton Arena with Andrew Ellis, and we were watching the Theo Vaughn thing when he came into town. And I got a call from a buddy on USC's coaching staff, not Muss, who said to me, hey, just want to give you a heads up. Sounds like Malik Ewan was in the bag, but speaking of bags, Bruce Pearl has come in and dropped a huge one late. So it's just something to keep an eye on. So they tried to come snap Ewan in the midnight hour from Arkansas, but it didn't happen. And then next thing you know, Keyshawn Murphy goes from Mississippi State to Auburn, and now here we are. So what could have been, right? Murphy's a good player, and he's been pretty solid for Auburn. 9.7 points, 5.8 rebounds. Not a big shot blocker or rim presence defensively there, but he's good. I remember being impressed with him offensively when that Mississippi State team came to Arkansas last year. He had 13 and 6. He's long, he's athletic, aggressive, nice jump hook in there. But Arkansas really gave it to him on the other end. Y'all remember that game? It was the regular season finale. Uncle Jonas had 21 and 10 that day on him. Trevin was in bad foul trouble. He had to sit the whole first half, but he had 11 points, 11 rebounds, a double-double in the second half alone. So they've had success against Keyshawn Murphy. And then as far as these two here, Murphy and Pringle played against each other twice last season. Obviously, Pringle at South Carolina. And Nick averaged 6.5 points and 7.5 boards in those games. Murphy averaged 12.5 points and 5 boards. So if you want to do the head-to-head comp between those two guys there, looking at some of Murphy's numbers, yeah, like he's been very active on the offensive glass in SEC play. 9 offensive rebounds in 2 league games. So Arkansas is going to need to account for that. I think as long as Pringle's starting, or until he really starts to play like he has most of his career, it's going to be hard for him to get the nod on paper in these position battles because he's not much of a stats guy, but that doesn't mean that he can't win the battle. So in this game, I think, in my humble opinion, semi-educated opinion, I think that Nick either needs to shut Keyshawn Murphy down, just eliminate his impact, or we need to see 25 minutes of Malik Ewan. Because I really think this is a great matchup for Malik Ewan to do some damage. You know, Murphy's vulnerable to being scored on in there. There's going to be lineups where Auburn's undersized. It's a kind of a poor defensive team that you're playing against. They gave up a lot of offensive rebounds. A lot of this screams Malik Ewan. But if Pringle's able to do his thing and neutralize a key cog there for Auburn, then fine. So I'm going to be really interested to see what it looks like at the 5 for Arkansas, how the minutes wind up shaking out and everything. But we'll see. As far as, I mean, Murphy's been the more impactful player this season, so I do have to give him the edge in the individual matchup. The bench here, it's going to go to the Razorbacks. And it's one of those things where, let's say if Leak or Billy started for Arkansas, I might be more compelled to give them a nod over Overton, especially Leak. But they don't. You know, like Ewan versus Murphy is a much better debate than Pringle versus Murphy as a matchup. Oh, well. Arkansas's bench was really good at Ole Miss. And it was really good against Tennessee. I thought that in Oxford on Wednesday night that Billy and Leak were not only, I mean, they were both highly productive, but their energy, it just really flipped things for Arkansas. I really love what this second unit brings to the floor. In fact, I think Arkansas's best lineup involves all three of those guys. My favorite group of the Razorbacks is Acuff, Leak, Billy, TB, and Ewan. I love it. And, hey, if Carter's balling out, slide him in there for one of those guys, fine. But I like that five-man group quite a bit. Then on the flip side with Auburn, much like Arkansas in that they've got a pretty tight rotation. So most nights you're looking at, 8 deep. Caden Magwood, who I mentioned earlier, he started a couple games here, freshman who started for him with Pettiford in the doghouse. But, he's playing about 10 minutes per game. I think they probably expected a bit more from him, honestly. He'll probably be pretty good down the road. Elijah Freeman is my favorite that they've got on the bench. Really good 6-man for them. He started for the longest, and now they've moved to Williams-Adams, and they're bringing Freeman off the bench. D2 transfer, he's good for it. It's transferred up for him. He's a nice player. Averaging double figure scoring. Can knock down some threes. It's like 6'8", 195 pounds. He usually gives them a pretty nice jolt there. So a good player for him. And they also have this international forward, Filip Jovic, who he's their best offensive rebounder by a wide margin, and pretty big bodies, like in the 6'8" to 6'9" range. Strong frame, 240 pounds or so. And he takes minutes at the 4 and 5 because they don't have much depth in the front court. Well, he got hurt against Texas A&M. He hurt his knee, and they did some scans that came back clean. But according to the staff over there, he was super limited at practice on Thursday, and wasn't even going half speed. He may not play Saturday, or he at the very least he might be pretty limited. So if that's the case, then Auburn is severely undersized inside. Like if Keyshawn Murphy gets into any kind of foul trouble, they've got issues. And so I go back to, Arkansas being aggressive downhill to the rim, because there won't be any rim protection at that point. And then also attacking that offensive glass, man. Because if that was the case, you would see some lineups with, Freeman and then Williams-Adams and Hall, and that would be your front court all together at the 3-4-5. But that would be pretty interesting to see. I guess we could just put it like that. And that would be interesting to see. Of course, if you're going to see, you might need to go check out the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. Your vision, it's important, man. It's essential to your quality of life. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to read, but you can't. Trying to see a sign, but things are a little bit blurry, a little bit fuzzy. Maybe you couldn't afford the Gucci row seats, and you're up there in the nosebleeds, and you got to squint to be able to see the game. You don't want that. Go to the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. Check out their award-winning eye doctors who are board certified and professionally active, and they'll take care of all your vision care needs. Custom cataract surgery, refractive lens exchange, standard eye exams, dry eye treatments. They've got their optical center where they can hook you up with glasses, contacts, anything that you need right there. Schedule an appointment today, 479-442-2020, or check out their website, www.eyecenternwa.com. Okay, just a couple more things here, and we'll call it a day. We've gone long. If you guys can't tell, I've been in the weeds about this game. We'll talk a lot more about it tomorrow, but this is, to me, and I understand what Vanderbilt is doing. If Arkansas goes to Auburn and wins this game Saturday, I think they are your favorite to win the SEC title. And that would be as much of a statement victory as they've had, because this is a difficult spot for the Razorbacks. It's a tough place to play. This is a team that was already desperate for, a quad one win, another resume win. And if you just think about the situation that they're in with their 2 league games so far and how they've lost them, this is it truly is a fork in the road type of moment for Auburn, in my opinion, where they're either going to give their best effort of the season and are going to be tough to deal with on Saturday, or they're going to be real fragile and on the verge of breaking there. If you're Arkansas, you got to assume the former. You've got to expect these guys are going to come out with their hair on fire and give their best effort and energy and intense focus that they have all season, which means you got to match it. And you got to come out there going balls to the wall if you're the Razorbacks. And If Arkansas does that and they play their A game, it doesn't matter how Auburn feel. They're going to be right there in it no matter what. But if you bring that type of intensity and they're a little shaky, then next thing you know, you might go in there and pop them. So it's going to be a fascinating game, but we'll get more into the weeds with the full preview tomorrow. I just want to real quick, saw this thing on CBS Sports, and I thought it was interesting. It's amazing how much 1 year can change things. We talked about it a little bit earlier, right? We went from first time since Arkansas joined the SEC that they started 0-5 in league play, to first time since 2014-15, the Razorbacks started 2-0 in SEC play. This time a year ago, we weren't really sure where this was going with Coach Cal. And, the short rotation idea didn't seem great, and the chemistry was wonky. They were really struggling. By this point, they had gotten popped by Tennessee, losing home games to Ole Miss and Florida. And you were kind of looking at it going, well, they didn't really do much in the non-conference either. What's going on here? Were they right? Is Cal washed? These are all conversations that were being had, concerns that were being raised. And it felt valid. And it got worse and it got better. But worse before it got better, I guess I should say. But man, that feels like a distant memory at this point, doesn't it? So I was reading over at CBS Sports. They have kind of put out their grades for the second-year coaches who have taken over jobs. And obviously, John Calipari qualifies there. But I thought that this was fascinating. So I'll read some of these off real quick, but Cal was the first one up there. And I'll just read what they had to say about him. They did a little bit of a vibe check there. It says, we have to wait and see if this will result in a title, but Arkansas is so clearly in a safe place with John Calipari. And I agree. A run to the Sweet 16 last year erased a ton of frustrations from an 0-5 start in SEC play. And he's got the Hogs 12-3, playing well in 25-26. Arkansas, not Vanderbilt, is actually in the driver's seat to win the SEC because it gets the doors at home and it has an easier conference slate. It's all sparked by Calipari doing what Calipari does on the recruiting trail. Freshman guards Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas have been massive hits, operating as Arkansas's thunder and lightning. Acuff is running away with SEC Freshman of the Year, and Thomas is the best sixth man in the league. Calipari struck the right balance in roster building, mixing elite freshmen with a ton of retention and just a splash of the portal to fill a void. Arkansas's brass would hire Calipari again in a jiffy, even if the game planning can leave something to be desired at times. Early grade A- for Coach Cal. I think that's fair. A-. Now, we get to the end of the year and Arkansas's made a Final Four, A+ it, right? But think about where we were a year ago. What would that grade have been? D? A C- if you felt bad because of their injuries? Like, it was a mess. So they have come a long way. And I go back to what Chris Beard, the video we played an hour ago when we started the show, where he said he felt like that was a coach of the year type of job from Cal to flip this thing around. And then now it's carried over into this season. Good to see. Some of the other grades in there, Kevin Young at BYU, an A. Like, Mark Pope left and they become infinitely better. And I've got to agree with that. They were really good last year. Really good. And they are again. Chris Holtman at DePaul, who cares? Mark Pope at Kentucky, D. If they did this time a year ago, he would have got an A+. Crazy how things change. Pat Kelsey over at Louisville, A-. Feels about right. Dusty May at Michigan, A+. Yeah. I think it's fair. He's done one hell of a job over there. Jake Diebler at Ohio State, C-. Steve Lutz at Oklahoma State, C+. Andy Enfield at SMU, B. Eric Musselman at USC, B-. They gave him a lot of grace for the injuries they're dealing with this season. Mark Byington over at Vanderbilt got an A+. I think that's fair. They were bad under Stackhouse, made the tournament last year, and they're one of the last undefeated teams in the country right now. So feels fair to me. You know what else I was thinking? Like, Arkansas won this game against Ole Miss, and let's say they go on the road and beat Auburn. All of a sudden, you're 13-3. You got 4 quad 1 wins. You're 3-0 in the SEC. Naturally, there's going to be a lot of people doing the thing where they're like, okay, well, it's a top 10 team, right? You know, I mean, Arkansas's got to be a top 10 team at this point. What are we talking about? I wonder if Arkansas is like low key almost maxed out until some other teams start to take some L's. Sometimes it isn't about your body of work or, you know, what you have or haven't done so much as the folks above you who haven't flinched yet. Because if you go look at it, some teams are going to have to take some L's here for Arkansas to really make a substantial leap. Now, you know, you're at 15, the Razorbacks. Texas Tech at 14, that feels passable to me. They just lost to Houston, by the way. So if Arkansas takes care of business Saturday, you should pass them. Alabama at 13, they just took an L to Vandy. If you win again, you should pass them. So, okay, there's a couple spots. But after that, Michigan State, who beat you, is at number 12. Vanderbilt, who's undefeated, is at number 11. Nebraska, who's undefeated, is at number 10. BYU, with the year they're having, with the Bants, is at 9. Gonzaga, you've seen how good they are. They're at 8. Houston, who beat you, is at 7. Duke, who beat you, is at 6. And then Purdue, UConn, Iowa State, Michigan, and Arizona are in your top 5. So, like, until those teams start to take a few L's, and they will because a lot of them have to play each other, it's going to take a minute, you know, for Arkansas to get into the top 10. Just interesting to think of because this is a really good team, and you know we get frustrated at, you know, Ken Palm and everything like that. I mean, good grief! If I think about the net rankings and everything, it's just funny to me because I already know, you know, like Kentucky, for example, computer trickers, they lose a home game to a bad Missouri team. They drop 3 spots in the net. They lost by 5. If Arkansas goes on the road and loses a quad 1 road game by 5 points at Auburn, I guarantee you, I would bet my life that they drop more than that. And it just doesn't make sense to me. But I wonder how much they would bump up if they won. I don't know. It'll be interesting to follow here. But, man, it'd just be cool to see Arkansas jump into the top 10 at some point this season. One of my biggest goals for them coming into the year was just to never be unranked, like never drop out of the top 25 of the AP poll. They dropped all the way to 25, but never out. So they're on pace to do that as long as they don't take any, and they're going to lose some games here and there, but avoid any silly, you know, slumps or 3-game skids or whatever. And you should be safe from that standpoint. But how high can they get up there? We'll see. Some interesting opportunities come up. You know, I'm thinking you're at Auburn, South Carolina at home, and at Georgia. You know, if you were able to go 2-1, say, in those games, like split the roadies and get the home game against South Carolina, then that puts you in a pretty good spot. Would you be 14-4 at that point and 4-1 or something in the league with going into that Vanderbilt game at home? That's shaping up to be a good one, isn't it? Who'd have thunk that the Arkansas Vanderbilt midweek game at Bud Walton Arena might be the most lit of the season? Y'all think it would top Tennessee? Let's say Vanderbilt comes in undefeated. All they've really got to do is beat Florida to be able to do that. It'd be crazy in there. When Auburn came in as number 1 for that whiteout and the court storming and everything, that was a midweek game. So I bet it would be crazy out there. The students will be back by then, so the place will be jumping. Could be a lot of fun. And it's easy to kind of look at it and be like, well, yeah, but Kentucky's coming to town at the end of the month, but they stink right now. So it's kind of like when Arkansas went there. Now that the Calipari factor outweighed it, but there was some shine taken off of that game going into it because everybody thought both teams are going to be pretty good. and only one of them was at the time. And now it's kind of flipped to where it looks like Arkansas is really good. Kentucky's really struggling. It's not going to be the marquee matchup you hoped it would. Like, is what you think we'll still get College Game Day here for that? I hope so. You should. I'm going to be ticked off if they don't. I just hope the result's not the same, to where the team that's been stinking up all year figures it out in that one. But anyway, I don't know, rambling a little bit here, but it's the kind of things I think about at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I'm going to get out of here. I got to get out here because I got to upload this. This is supposed to be out on Spotify like 4 minutes ago. So thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out as always. Long episode, man. We're going to have a good preview for you tomorrow morning. And obviously the Pot at the Palace post-game show after this matchup at Auburn on Saturday should be a lot of fun. But subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Find us where you find your podcast. I just mentioned Spotify, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. The Pot at the Palace can be found there. Also, Inside SEC Basketball Live can be found there as well. We're going to have that up in audio form and everything for you. So make sure that you subscribe and throw us a good review and everything like that. We're trying to build that one up, obviously, with it being our new show. But out of here for today. We will catch you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot at the Palace. Y'all have a good one.